Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic 06, Sonic and the Secret Rings, Sonic Unleashed, Sonic and the Black Knight, Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, Sonic Lost Worlds, Sonic Forces. It's undeniable to say that 3D Sonic has had an awfully rocky ride these past 2 decades. I mean, their successes are all over the place. Sonic Adventure simultaneously achieved a 9.2 out of 10 and a 3.5 out of 10. And as Sonic has grown older, it's not really clear if he's gotten any better at what he does. With last year being the pinnacle revelation of that, as 2D Sonic had reached a major breakthrough in success with its critically acclaimed Sonic Mania, whilst Sonic Forces a few months later acted to just completely fall flat on its face. What was the difference? One team knew precisely what made the format of its predecessors so nostalgically brilliant, and the big men on that crew were previous fans of the original games rather than the usual Sonic team. For the Sonic Forces team, it was just kind of more of the same, and after their notorious track record, it ended up just being exactly more of the same. But then, looking back, what even was the good old days of 3D Sonic? And what elements were in those games that could translate so well to a modern 3D Sonic game? Welcome to episode 3 of How to Make a Proper Sequel, a potential series entirely dictated by you and whether this video gets as much of a following as my Luigi's Mansion one did. The last episode flopped, and I'm not making enough money to pay rent, but screw it! I'm making 5 of these before I decide if I'm pulling out, damn it. To look at how to do a sequel right, let's first look at how Sonic has been going wrong recently and how these issues can be fixed. So first things first, Sonic Forces was created by Sonic Team and flopped, while Sonic Mania was made by fans and blew up. So let's just throw out all of Sonic Team and all of our problems will be solved. I'm joking, of course, though it's scary to see how many people think that this is actually the right way to approach the problem. At a fundamental level, the current Sonic team need to rethink their approach toward creating a new Sonic game, and take on something closer to how Sonic Mania was produced. Obviously, the core rule of Sonic is that he really should be staying fast. Platforming is obviously a big part as well, but if it's not fast in a Sonic game, chances are it's not fun. And much to Sonic Team's credit, modern 3D games have started to get the hang of this since Sonic Unleashed, by simply restructuring the realms of 3D Sonic gameplay into a kind of funnel format. You're going fast in a 2D plane of movement, but it is technically 3D, and certainly feels like it too. So when it comes to speed, Sonic Forces doesn't really have an issue. However, the biggest drawback is the level design incorporated with its speed. Platforming is not modern Sonic's greatest strength, especially when given such small platforms to work with, a terrible jumping height, and more edgeless paths, literally punishing the player for going fast and boosting at any point during these sections. It's downright counterproductive and incredibly frustrating to the player. That being said, platforming excels through Sonic Forces due to the fact that there are multiple characters to play as. Classic Sonic being the obvious two-dimensional platforming god. In these levels, they seem succinct and fun to play. Classic Sonic's abilities work to complement how the level design works, and overall is a jolly good time for the most part. So then, why is it that there are so many platform elements also prevalent in the modern Sonic levels when it clearly doesn't suit him? And furthermore, why isn't it tailored more toward him so that it is more fun for the player? Give him bigger platforms to boost off of so his extra speed doesn't need to be sacrificed, and give him a jumping ability that's more than 3 inches off the ground. And oddly enough, Sonic Forces does have a solution to this problem already, in the form of the customizable OC character you can also play as in the game, as they act as a hybrid character of the two Sonics, closely following modern Sonic's speed but with the additive height of classic Sonic's jump. These levels, albeit a little underwhelming with how powerful your weapons are, work fairly well alongside the controls of the OC Sonic. And when both modern Sonic and your OC are playable together, well, you've just got a match made in heaven control-wise. But the rarity of this style of level is far too high. For some reason, Sonic games like to give the best level designs the smallest part, and in its place throws in pretty terrible level designs. So step 1. When it comes to level design, have the levels complement the controls of the character more. If we're playing as modern Sonic, we want more of the gotta go fast and stay that way mentality rather than, wait, I gotta stop in my tracks like it's Marble Zone all over again. And since I imagine simply running through a hallway really fast will get boring pretty quick, make it so that the platforming sections work well with the speed and abilities of modern Sonic. Step 2, make them more common. Now that might be a bit of a big ask in its own right, but if you were to replace every bad modern Sonic level with ones that did use the previously mentioned tweaks, then you're set up and done for the most part. Remember though, we are playing a Sonic game, so we would quite like to play as Sonic for most of it. Moving on to other issues though, the story. Oh my god, the story. Sonic Force's story is a hot mess. And the reason is it takes itself way too seriously, whilst not really delivering on too much of its hype. I'm all for a dark story with a genuinely powerful sequence of real danger. It's unsurprisingly part of one of my favourite Sonic games, but this is way too much. It's not really dark as it is just cringy and over the top. Exploding half the moon, yeah, that's big and bad, but it's also kinda cartoony despite how real and threatening it seems. Having a giant war against Eggman's robots that have been destroying towns, decimating rebel troops and imprisoning Sonic to torture him for months? What? And even if we were to follow through on this plot, it doesn't feel nearly as investing or real. The cutscenes we see of towns being taken over are clunky and weird, with just a few characters on each side really making an appearance. If I want a town being taken over, I want something more impactful like this.
The champions lost their lives, those residing in the castle as well. The appointed knight, bravely wounded, collapsed while defending the princess.
There is no reason to resist. Savior is no.
This just doesn't sell it to me. Any rebel fighting going on behind the scenes is exactly that. Behind the scenes. There's no footage, no characters, it's just exposition we hear from a random character up in the corner of the screen during missions. Even if we had a single short mission from the perspective of a lone soldier fighting in this unwinnable war against a bunch of growing Eggman robots, it would be far more powerful than just this. There's no real point in it being here. I mean, what if this powerless guy just had to run from group to group trying to save them or help the sick and wounded? That sounds a little bit cool as a perspective change on how dire the situation is. The 1-minute mission could even end with Sonic bursting in, making an appearance before boosting his way through the enemies like paper, and then transitioning that into his gameplay as he runs to make a counterattack. It's still a little bit too serious, but at least it's impactful as well. And what was that torture plot? I get that it was going for everything is terrible, but it really doesn't feel like it too much. Especially when all the events we hear about are just heard about in one room. Put us on the battlefield, damn it, if you want us to feel the impact. With that moon scene, we weren't just watching it on a screen in Knuckles' basement, we were outside looking straight up into the night sky. The camera was full on in space, looking across Earth. And back to Sonic Forces, when we finally do see Sonic, he's just normal. All that build-up just went kinda nowhere. And don't even get me started on the actual action of these cutscenes.
Ha! The only thing inevitable here is my foot kicking your butt.
If you're gonna go for a dark story, cool. But if you're gonna do so, then either hold back on the unrealistic seriousness you expect out of the world of cartoony Sonic, or create a better sense of direction that really follows through on the build-up your dark story creates. Put us in the scenario so that we can feel the emotions you're trying to pull. And for God's sake, make cutscenes worth something. These empty plasticine animations just do not cut it. Whatever happened to those pre-rendered masterpiece cutscenes of previous games? I get that they didn't really fit with the look of the other in-game renderings or the actual gameplay, but I don't care. A good cutscene is a good cutscene, regardless of how big the leap up to it is. And you know, Sonic stories can work whether they are serious or comedic. The simple plot of defeat Eggman whilst Sonic said some witty, snarky thing does work. And though it can get a little old on people, of all franchises, Sonic has shown that going back to basics can be just as good, if not better, than over-extrapolating yourself. Now speaking of back to basics, let's go back to the first breach of Sonic into the 3D realm, Sonic 3D Blast, no, Sonic Adventure, and its subsequent sequel. Now these games got the biggest reception and in polar opposites upon release. I mean, I've already mentioned it earlier with Sonic Adventure 1's receivings. And in all honesty, it makes sense. The games are endlessly clunky, some mechanics dire, and these cutscenes were atrocious. But at the same time, it did a pretty good job on what it wanted to do. Sonic in his 3D universe was somewhat playable and fun. The story the games told were impactful and did spark emotion, whether you were genuinely invested in the tragedy of E102 Gamma, or just the simple thought process of, oh, it's Tails! I remember this moment because I was playing as him, and it's the same timeline just going back over on itself. Now I could go on about its very, very obvious flaws and strengths, but instead I want to take on the more polished and shiny expansion of Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2. Now this game did substantially better review-wise, garnering a 9.4, 6.8 and 89% on Metacritic. And as its successor, it has some major strengths and major letdowns. Now at this point, Sonic was years behind solidifying its 3D gameplay formula, and so instead took on more of a Mario 64 approach to the level design with its open-worldly presentation, with a little bit of hallwayism combined into it. The first level, City Escape, starts off with a strict hallway section of snowboarding, skateboarding, grindboarding down the San Francisco streets. You can't go too far left or too far right, you can slow down, but you can't really go back on yourself either. You can get boosts as you go depending on your timing skills or ability to avoid the traffic, but otherwise just enjoy yourself and get down this slope. And then you're booted off the board and have to run ahead on foot, and you're given multiple choice on how to progress. Do you just run up the stairs or grind up the railing with your new homing attack? Do you climb the boxes? Though it's still very small and compact, it creates a much more open mini world for Sonic's gameplay to explore with beyond just going forwards. Not to mention the camera isn't fixed at a certain angle, which is both a blessing and a curse, but allows for Sonic to move in all directions without having one conveniently disabled. Suddenly there's new gameplay options and world building. You could do cool things like run along the wall to collect some rings, destroy boxes to open new paths and secrets. The enemies themselves now become a new pathway option with that homing attack, and upgrading Sonic's movesets allows for more alternative pathways and exploration options. Whether it's something as simple as bouncing onto the railings for that extra boost, or finding a mysterious pedestal that literally creates a new path ahead of you. It becomes less of a matter of you're rewarded for getting to a better path by a particular asset at the end of said path, and instead forces the player to make a choice on how they want to progress next, giving them all the assets and the open arms approach of letting the player discover for themselves. Slide in additional level goals that embrace the explorative nature of these level designs in the form of hidden secrets, items, and time restrictions, and with that all packed together, you have a truly intriguing and replayable level. So then, what happened to Speedy Gotta Go Fast Sonic? Is that not still rule number 1? Well, yes, but you see, it's okay to incorporate these slower ideas in my mind as long as you keep it optional. City Escape starts with a fast-paced opener, open but still potentially speedy meat in the middle, and then after returns back to the beeline get to the goal style once again. Any player can whiz right by the level if they truly wanted to without getting held back or pushed down, and that makes that experience great for your average player. But rewarding a player for also choosing to plan out their pathway or take a moment to stop for a detour can only add to the experience even more so for the player that chooses to do so. So step 3, give us more alternative routes, and expand upon them to reward players who choose to slow down and take their time to explore these given levels. Thanks for making it to the halfway mark. If you're enjoying my content, then you may be delighted to know that I'm streaming right now. That is the moment this video comes out. Yes, you heard that right. Until this video is 4 hours old, I will be streaming on my Twitch channel, DazzVideos. Link will be in the comments if you want to see more of me, which I imagine you do if you've gotten this far. If this video's old, I could still be live anyway. You'll have to check the on-screen schedule, or the one on my Twitch page or Twitter. Other links of mine include, what do you know, Twitter with the handle @DazzVideos, and my Patreon page, DazzVideos as well. And can I just say an extra thank you to our new patrons who have risen up and shown their extra support this week after last week's mini sob story. I deeply do appreciate you, and I hope I'll be able to return the favour to you with more rewards in the future. If you also want to support me, the links are on screen or down in the description. Anyway, enough pesky links of mine, on with the video. Modern games try to bring up replayability by integrating collectible red coins, but I'm not sure if too many people find it that investing. And I'm sure that it's great for the true completionists, but they don't really feel like they add a crazy amount to the level. Perhaps if they gave out a bigger reward, like maybe a mini cutscene of Sonic jumping by and grabbing the coin before reverting back to gameplay, or even having it so that collecting them makes for a bigger, better thing like a new level or ending. Though even then, I feel these coins need more foreshadowing so a player can either predict a path that leads to it, or can see it flying by in the background if they went the wrong way, reminding them that they missed something, and so encouraging them to go back and play the level again. Although, perhaps these issues arise because of the modern day formula of Sonic levels. So step 3.5, though I'd say it's quite optional, is break the formula and give another stab at the free-camered, open-worldly style of the Sonic Adventure games. It's somewhat made a reappearance in Sonic Generations, and maybe with a well-polished camera, it could work once again. Though, take this step with a pinch of salt. Though it is Sonic, so I doubt finding salt somewhere is going to be a big issue. Regardless, another trait that could really be translated from Sonic Adventure 2 well is upgrades. The Sonic Adventure games did a really good job of expanding the gameplay options for Sonic through upgrades that could be attained as he progressed through the levels. Some mandatory for his more notorious moves, and some optional as another secret to be found through exploration. Some of the moves included bouncing for height and as an attack, more destructive power for somersaults designed to be used against stronger boxes and containers, and being able to capture enemies in an orb projectile. Some were weird and most were never to be seen again, but granting more abilities for Sonic is an easy and investing way to have players intrigued to go back to earlier levels to use their newfound skills. Now, Sonic Forces kinda took a stab at this through the OC character, as they could use different weapons and thus different ways of attacking and progressing through levels, but I would have liked to see these mechanics have more of an impact upon the actual level design, as for the most part they kinda do the same thing of doing immense damage to enemies and moving the character about, whereas having a route that specifically needs a whip and nothing else and can only be obtained after the level is at least a little more interesting to go back to and discover the route for than just having a choice between upgrades that ultimately do the same thing. Sonic Colors also had different abilities for Sonic, but they were only available during certain sections of a level, so it didn't really feel like you were finding new paths as much as you were just given the key to a door right in front of you. So step 4 is to integrate upgrades to expand the character's progression and the gameplay options for the explorer-friendly levels. But of course, Sonic Adventure 2 is not solid gold, and something Sonic Forces actually has up on the old thing is alternative gameplay through alternative characters. Sonic games need to have elements of not Sonic simply due to how fast his gameplay is laid out to be. If everything was as fast as Sonic, then the games would be complete in like 2 hours, so that's why every game has so much extra filling to pad out the games. Even in Sonic Generations, where you could only be a speedy Sonic, they had you play each level twice, sort of, and each level came with a huge array of side missions to take on. And that's not bad, and I actually really enjoy a lot of these missions, and it's a shame how much they get shafted by so many players. But with Sonic Adventure 2, they had both alternative missions, as well as 2 other playable character types, Tails and Knuckles. Tails was the shoot-em-up run-and-gun type of player, and Knuckles was the explore and discover player archetype. And these guys break rule number 1 to a certain degree. Obviously, they are miles slower than Sonic. Tails, I would argue, isn't actually that bad. He doesn't sprint anywhere, but he's able to power forward, and his big machine doesn't exactly make you feel like you're not making any progress quickly. But Knuckles is especially a rule breaker, because while his level design does complement his moveset and mechanics, he is slow. He could feel fast, but it's just not quite enough. So step 5, don't do this! But maybe you can tweak it. Sonic Forces avoids this issue by making each playable character similar in design to Sonic. You go fast forwards, you go fast sideways, you can go fast in a little bit of both. Yeah, whatever, just go fast. And you could just keep up with that formula. But if you were to change it a tad, you could still integrate more archaic characters, cause I don't know about you, but it's a real pet peeve of mine when I see memories of Tails just tearing up the streets as he marches along, indestructible. Meanwhile, I have to witness the guy standing dead in the street like a deer in headlights in the new games. Like, No! Don't just chuck away all those great memories for the sake of your damn story. Every one of these Sonic characters has been a badass character at some point in their history. Yes, even Charmy the Bee. Yes, even Cream and Cheese. Not just in Sonic Heroes, but Sonic Advance 2. She was overpowered as hell back then, good lord! And so I'd love to see a moment, whether it's a full mission or simply a small section, where we see some of the other characters flourish in their own little ways. Imagine if you were playing as Tails flying up in his tornado, trailing a little behind Sonic, who's running along the ground. And as you play, you've got to take down a whole bunch of robots parachuting onto the ground. Sonic takes care of the ones on the ground while you're handling the ones in the sky. It's fast, it's eventful, sure it's just hallwayism and that perhaps defeats the purpose of other characters, but you could again have this incorporated within a Sonic level, having moments where you switch between the two as they charge down the street. Or to keep characters grounded a bit, just have them take place of classic Sonic or OC Sonic, whether as a cosmetic choice with some extra abilities that work with the level design, or in the new game just replace them entirely. They've been shown to match Sonic's speed in previous games, and in all honesty, I don't think anyone would be too displeased if they happened to run fast in this universe too. Imagine Knuckles sprinting and climbing up walls in a 2D space, just like he does in Sonic Mania, or Tails being gifted extra height in his jump that could transition into flying high once again. And look at how well integrated it all seemed to work in Sonic Heroes. So I guess what I'm saying is step 6, don't abandon your supporting characters and give them respect. If we get to play with them and it still works in the structure of a fast-paced Sonic game, then I don't think we can complain. You can perceive that as give us unique gameplay that's both fast and satisfying, if that's ever possible, or simply have them there as an alternative option for the already created fast-paced Sonic-esque gameplay. And as a final thing, let's talk about story again. Probably the hardest thing to solidify when it comes to the Sonic franchise. Things work and many things don't, though I think there's one thing that we can all agree really doesn't work, and that is seriousness cranked to 11. All of Sonic's worst games are the ones that take itself oh so very seriously, becoming such a strong embodiment of serious that it's just cringy. Sonic as a character is a snarky dude, and his franchise should reflect that. To however much degree is really up to the developers. Now there is a slight flaw in this stance, as another flop of a Sonic game is Sonic Boom, very clearly not afraid to make fun of itself and enjoy itself as it goes. But that game predominantly failed due to the actual gameplay and level design of the final product, not to mention the complete disregard for quality assurance and just non-existent polish thanks to a rushed team. The dialogue on its own seemed fairly entertaining. I mean, look how much people hold up the Sonic Boom TV series. And on the other flip side of this argument, the Sonic Adventure games take themselves quite seriously too, yet I'm holding them on a bit of a pedestal as well. And you're right, part of the flaws in some places is the overly seriousness of these moments, but for Sonic Adventure 2, I feel it oddly kinda works. As I said earlier, it's serious, but in a cartoony way. Destroying half the moon is cartoony and unrealistic. Having an arch nemesis that is practically identical to you is as well. Having Shadow split between his outlook on life might be a bit too serious, but in comparison to time traveling across timelines, having a new enemy that hosts the look of another character but is godly and much different, and being given the choice to kill the president? Yeah, maybe serious, but toned down a tad isn't too bad. So I'm not saying have your story be a 10 out of 11 on the serious scale for Step 7, but I personally like it a lot. Really, anywhere on the serious scale before 11 seems to go pretty alright. I do find myself enjoying the butt-rock crazy ending scenes of the more serious Sonic games, but there's no harm in staying within your boundaries to keep your values. So, Step 1, have the level design complement character controls more closely. Step 2, make Sonic levels over alternative levels, improve that ratio. Step 3, give us expansive alternative routes that reward exploration. Step 3.5, give us free camera once again, break the static camera formula. It's kinda getting dull. Step 4, reintegrate upgrades to expand character progression and exploration options. Step 5, avoid slowed gameplay through alternative characters. But, Step 6, don't abandon supporting characters, respect them, and make them fast. And Step 7, don't be too serious. You've got boundaries and plenty of options within that. And I think that just about covers it. Though I feel like there was something else I'm missing. Something I enjoyed beyond all those experiences speeding around as Sonic. Something long lost and forgotten from over a decade ago. I feel like it was a whole section of a Sonic game that took place in the background as an optional story of its own, and was integrated within the rest of the game as an optional experience to explore
Give us the
levels,
Chow
and
Garden.
replace
Bring
said
us the
levels
Chow
again and
Garden.
again.
Bring us the Chow Garden.
What we
Bring
find
us
is
the
the
Chow
Sonic
Garden.
characters,
Chow
Sonic, what was that
Garden.
called
Bring us
again?
the Chow.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more, then do be sure to subscribe and hit that bell, which I'd never like saying. Follow me on Twitter, watch me on Twitch, and support me on Patreon. And since I'm streaming the moment this upload comes out for the next 4 hours, there will be a link in the comment section as well. Thank you to the Shepherd256, Dylan Brill, DazzleKitty, Melchor Velasco, Farian, kritikill, Daniel, and Luke. Your support is so greatly appreciated. Anyway, my name's been Daz, you didn't really care, and I'll see you in a bit. I mean, their successes are all over them. And as 2D Sonic had reached a and after there you're going fast in a 2D plane of movement. You're going fast in a 2D plane of movement, especially when given such small platforms to work with. That being said, platforming excel. And oddly enough, Sonic Forces does have OC character you can also, and in its place, have the levels complement the character. Wait, I gotta stop in my tracks, like it's Emerald Zone all over again, and it's not Emerald. What is it called? I've forgotten what they're called. Marble Zone, that's the one. Okay. I'm not entirely sure that makes sense, but we'll go with it. Every bad well, it's not really deliver, and even if we were all that build up, simple plots of defeat Eggman while Sonic said something. Now speaking of back to Sonic and its subsequent sequel. Wow, I said that first time. Good job me, I'm improving. It's an 89% on Metacritic. I believe is the case, right? Did I said that right? Metacritic, Sonic, Adventure 2. Not 12. Yes, Metacritic. I know my review site. and major letdown. But back to the beeline. Get to the any wizard? No. I will be streaming on my Twitch channel for. And can I just say an extra thank you to the people who have supported. If you would. Anyway, enough pesky list. But they don't really feel like there's a Perhaps if they gave out a bigger award, like maybe a mini cutscene of Sonic to. Perhaps if they gave out so step 3.5 optional. So perhaps step 3.5, although quite old, and something Sonic Force actually has up on it is the old. And these guys break new. Sonic take cares of the ones on the ground. Excuse you, phone, give me a heart attack, why don't you? It's fast, it's hallway, and I don't think anyone beat probably the hardest thing to solidify when it comes to the Sonic. To however much degree is really up to the developers. There's another flop of a Sonic game is very clearly not afraid to make fun of itself and enjoy it. Very clearly not afraid to make fun of itself and enjoy itself. The dialogue on its own seems fairly. Look at how much people hold up the Sonic 2. Look how much. And being given the choice to kill the goddamn president of the United States. My nose does not like my lines. I do find myself enjoying the butt rock crazy scene. Really, anywhere on the skin. Thank you to. I have not got anyone's names. Who did 10? It doesn't matter, I'll flip it over. kritikill and Luke. There might be someone else, so I'm gonna quickly check on my phone. I'm time-lapsing this, so I couldn't read it. There was, damn it. It's Daniel. Sorry, Daniel. Oh, thank you. Oh, damn it. Okay. This video is 37 minutes, raw recording-wise. I hope I can cut that down, but I don't think that's too bad. We'll see. End of bloopers.